Please tell me. I know she's like, you're on the
Right. That's my
challenges me.
The whole topic is her domain. I'm just,
Oh, yeah. I should put like a psychiatric spin on it so that I can be.
Yes, absolutely.
It's great that I see someone still getting
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, you long time, man.
I'm just, yeah, I know, it's been a while.
I know, you really trimmed down. What happened?
And सब कुछ ठीक नहीं है बाद में बताता हूँ मतलब कुछ dangerous नहीं है लेकिन yeah I got diagnosed with diabetes and so because of the I know, right? So bad genes, man, what can you do? It's a South Asian curse. The South Asian curse of the metabolic syndrome, diabetes, high blood pressure, usual shit. So so the challenge is that I'm having a lot of trouble with the medications. That's the challenge. That's why I've lost all this weight and such because I'm not able to tolerate the medications, and then they try something else. Kidney functions are getting bad on this one. It's like shit. So it's an ending cycle of trying to figure out what will work. And I don't believe in physical activity, which makes it more difficult. So.
I don't believe in physical activity. I'm anti-physical activity.
I'm in virtual reality now.
Right. So,
Hey,
food I'm
being honest
happy to
with
give
you.
up. I can give up any food item. I don't
I'm
have
the
a problem with
opposite.
that,
I'm the opposite. I can't give up food, so I have to. I can't give up food.
So I've given up on a lot of my sweet tooth.
So you were just diagnosed with that?
Yeah.
It's kind of all hit at once.
Yeah, I wonder, if all the crap that has happened in the past year had something to do with it too. Maybe.
Just like a trigger.
Yeah. So, although I blame my dad.
We'll stick with that.
He's to
You should have
blame.
been mother's fault, so that's kind of not refreshing.
Yeah, my mother gave me high blood pressure, my dad gave me diabetes, so they both took a.
Mothers usually give you all the psychological trauma.
It's fascinating that my brother only got the diabetes gene. I got both. I got high blood pressure from my mother. So, 2000. Well, so thinking my brother got diagnosed with diabetes when he was like 35.
Okay.
I at least waited till I was 50 to make it happen. So, yeah, I'm growing a beard so that I can look the age. So.
Oh, that's so sad. What problem do you have?
I have to look the part, right? But 2009, I actually went for my immigration health check. My physician was my friend. My blood pressure was 180 by 100.
God.
And he was like,
Where is you?
anxious? Are you have a headache? And he's like, do I need to admit you? And he's like, do I look like I'm stressed?
Okay.
Totally. I must have been going on for a while. So it's like his body got used to it. So he then had me sit down, measured it again, it was still high. So then he said, okay, my choice is, we work almost next to each other. So it's like my choice is either you get admitted or I'm going to write you a prescription. You go down to the Mayo pharmacy, pick it up, take it, come back in 2 hours, I'll check your blood pressure again. So it's like, okay, at least you're not going to stroke on me. Yeah, you're not going to stroke out on me. So.
So scary.
But then that led to sort of this whole host of investigations because my mother actually had renal artery dysplasia from birth, so she only had one kidney, and that's why her blood pressure was high.
Can you lean it against the door?
So then they started looking for everything in a very Mayo way.
I don't do that sometimes either. It's like, wait, it's
On the handle, yeah. Exactly.
So,
a lot.
yeah. Last week we got this past year. No.
Good, man. You've been busy.
ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪೋಸ್ಟರ್ ಕೂಡ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಮದರ್ಸ್ ಪೇಜ್ ಮೇಡಮ್.
Next time you're bringing I was planning to bring a phone board printed, but I don't know. Should be unless it's pasted in. Well, live streaming.
All right. And so I'll do that another meeting. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Dr. Messi, I can hear everything. But on the announcement there, that
Right at the very back.
we're starting to. Apparently.
Login right now. to worry.
Hello everyone. Hello, hello. How is everyone doing? Hello. Can I get some attention here, please? Hello. Yeah, I haven't heard any responses back. How is everyone doing this afternoon? Good. Anybody follow the Jaguars? Yeah? Do you know how they are doing?
They're winning right now.
They're winning right now?
Small.
Yeah. You know, they need to make sure they do that 2 more quarters, right? Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us today. This is a great group. Anybody here familiar with Mother's Cry organization? Some of you? Yeah. Some of you? Yes. Yes. So just for those of you who are not familiar with by the way, I am Sharad Kuravi. My name is Sharad Kuravi. I'm representing Mother's Cry organization. Mother's Cry organization was founded about 15 years ago. We are in fact celebrating our 15th year anniversary today. The organization was started by Dr. Uma Yuni. She's a ENT surgeon. She used to practice ENT surgery, and then she has retired since then. She was in Jacksonville, St. Augustine. She used to live in St. Augustine. Now they have moved to Nashville. We have other members of the organization, Dr. Reena Goyal, Dr. Mohit Chauhan, myself, Shankar. We are all part of the Mother's Cry Gokul, right there. Yeah, can you just
It's okay.
show? Yeah, please.
Let's do another round of applause let's do another round of applause for 15 years. We have
Yeah.
conducted several seminars, so we need your support to keep it going.
Yeah, the primary goal of the organization is to make sure that the families are supported, especially with we are very interested in the development of the children as well as the family's well-being. That's one of the goals. Good to see, there's a lot of engaging conversations, seminars, talks that we try to bring it to the fore. I think this is a good time to do that. This year, for the last few events, we are very fortunate to have been collaborating with ICS, India Cultural Society. Thanks to ICS for really spreading the word, because Mother's Cry is a very small organization that only is trying to do things not necessarily in the public domain as much as some other organizations like ICS. So I would like to ask Mrs. Shravanti to come up here, introduce ICS and the ICS team, and say a few words.
Good afternoon, everybody. I welcome all of you for joining us today for our workshop in collaboration with Mother's Cry. Here we have our team, our Vice President Pramod Dharmadariaji, and our youth coordinator Vasudhaji, and our advisory board member Mahesh Ji also is here. And we actually identify and appreciate Mother's Cry's initiative in putting mental health forward and working towards that, especially for our youth. And that's what resonated with me, and I wanted to collaborate. I wanted ICS to collaborate with Mother's Cry, and I hope this collaboration continues further ahead, and I think we can start our session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. One more round of applause. I'd like to go ahead and introduce the panel today. We have 2 doctors on the panel, as you all know. First, I would like to introduce Dr. Mohit Chauhan. Dr. Chauhan is a psychiatrist with 20 years of experience, currently serving at Mayo Clinic. He practices at Mayo Clinic of Jacksonville. He has expertise in management of mood disorders and use of machine-augmented intelligence in early detection of mental health problems. So, welcome, Dr. And our second panelist here today is Dr. Reena Goyal. Dr. Goyal has been in practice for over 20 years in the Jacksonville area. She primarily serves children and adolescents and adults. She's been involved with Mother's Cry for the past 10 years, and she's currently in practice at the Baptist Medical Center. Dr. Goyal. So So today's session is going to be very, very interactive. This is not like a very structure where they talk everything. We want to make it a very interactive session today. So I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Goel to start the program. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much, and thank you to ICS and of course all my co-board members for organizing all of this. They do all the hard work, and then we just get to come and present, so it's wonderful. So, and thank you all for being here today. I think the topic that we're here to discuss today are stressors and anxieties specific to freshmen in high school as well as freshmen in college. Of course, those are both very big transition periods, but we want to keep it open and have everyone kind of engage in a conversation rather than having a didactic thing. I think it's so important for us to hear from our youth, to hear from what kind of challenges, especially specific to the South Asian community. We have received some questions via our email, and we're going to go over those as well as the program goes on. But I am very lucky and blessed today. I've grown up, I was born and raised in Canada. My parents are from India. They happen to be here today.
Oh.
I'm the sandwich today because I've got my son here today.
There you go.
As well. So we can talk about psychology from both sides. But I thought it would be nice, he's a college freshman at UF. So I thought it'd be nice for us to just, Dr. Chauhan and I, to maybe just have a little conversation with him to start, asking him a few questions and interview him, so to speak, just so that we can get the ball rolling and maybe encourage some other people who you're interested in. We just kind of open up a conversation that way. So this is Ashwin Goel, who's a freshman at UF. Ashwin, you want to tell us a little about yourself?
I'm a freshman at UF. I think my mom said that. It's been a great time so far. I love college. I was really lucky to get involved on campus a lot, like join a fraternity, like Senate as well, and it's just been a lot of fun. Like a lot of great people.
Excellent, thank you. So I was just going to ask you some specific questions about your experience with that transition, and of course you went to Ponte Vedra High School, so you're very familiar with what everyone,
Yeah.
all the different systems in Jacksonville, the Stantons and the Paxsons, and adjusting to that and going to college from there. So what has that transition for you been like from high school to college? Academically, socially, and emotionally?
Yeah. So academically, it's definitely been like a big adjustment. I know in high school, like you have your 7 classes and you just go, or at least for us, we had 7 each day we'd go to. It was super structured. When you get to college, it's not like that at all. You can kind of like choose when you do your work, if you want to go to class. So I think like that was a hard transition for me, but I think I created like routines, like what day I would do assignments, and that really helped me like academically stay like grounded. And I think socially, joining fraternity helped a lot. Pledging for me was like brutal, but I think once you get through it, you meet like a lot of great guys, you get super close to them in that like 5-week process, and now like I have over like 200 guys that I can call if I want to get food or just like hang out, or if I have a problem, and they're all like there to help me.
Can I ask you a question about that? So I think I speak because myself, I was not familiar with fraternities and sororities and those kinds of things, and I don't think that they are a very big part of the South Asian part of our schema as parents and as children. It's not something we're really encouraged to do. We're not familiar with it. The focus is mostly academic.
Yeah.
So how do you think parents and kids can maneuver that? Because it's very specific. Like I think when I went to college, I don't think I would consider myself a sorority girl. I was kind of a nerd and just wanted to study. So it's like how do you
well, I think when I watch movies and stuff about college and fraternities, there's a really
I wouldn't want you in a fraternity.
Yeah, there's a really bad stigma, a lot of alcohol, a lot of drugs, and kind of getting to college, it's not like that at all. It's just a great group of guys or girls if you join a sorority. And they all have like goals, right? Like they all want to be successful. Yeah, like sometimes they like to have fun, but that doesn't outweigh like academics to them and internships to them. And it just creates like a great network of really strong people. And there's like over 40 chapters of like fraternities and sororities at UF. And I think that like each person, no matter your interests or like what type of person you are, you can like find one where you mesh with other people.
So like a nerd like me would found
Yeah,
one?
definitely, yeah.
Okay, because that's the thing, it's like a lack of knowledge about it, a lack of familiarity. And basically, I think, I speak for most parents, a fear around it. I know when my boys came and told me they wanted to join a fraternity, that was like, I'm like, oh God, now what? They're gonna, go down this really scary path because I don't see it in movies. But I think as South Asian parents, it's challenging for us to help our children maneuver the social pieces. We're really good with academics, but the social and emotional pieces, I think it's more challenging for us. Do you agree?
No, absolutely. So no partying? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm not saying that, you know.
Sometimes I don't want to know, but I listen. I think he tells me most, or a lot.
No. Yeah, like partying is a part. I think it's very important for every college kid to kind of experience that to an extent. Definitely you have to pace yourself with it, but you can't get too locked in on academics all the time. It's really important to get out and meet people in that setting. A lot of college, almost every single college kid, no matter what type of person you are, goes out once in a while. And it really like keeps you grounded, it keeps the head clear, and it like keeps you hardworking as well.
So again, I'll put you and your mom on a spot here. That's what I promise to do. So tell me, what were the areas where you and your parents disagreed upon in terms of your transition to college or decisions you made, and how did you, the both of you, how did you sort of negotiate that?
Honestly, I'm not too sure what we disagree. Do you have any? Do you want to speak?
That's so nice. He's my third one, so I've learned, my oldest would say something very different. I think that over time, as a parent, I have learned to give each of my kids a little more space and independence and trust them a little bit more. And what I've learned as a parent, and I don't think my degree, like I know this, but it didn't really work, was that, what are we really prioritizing? Because we have so many fears around what our children are going to do and how they're doing. And at the end of the day, it's that fear that causes us to be like, okay, you need to study, or you need to do this, or you need to stop, or don't go out. And instead of creating that fear, we have to, or instead of focusing on that, or managing it that way, I should say, I think what I've figured out is the best thing we can do is foster a close relationship with our children, so that if and when something comes up and they have made a mistake or one of those fears is happening, that they can come to us and talk to us. And I would say, again, my oldest has not experienced me that way, unfortunately. I was a pretty traditional, mom. We do what we think is best, but I think it has served me better as a parent, and I think served my children better, that I've just kind of had to be non-reactive to hearing what they're telling me, really trying to listen more and say less. And I think that has created a place where, sometimes you tell me things and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to know that, but it's one of those things, right, where I do want to know, because at the end of the day, we both have the same goal. We want to be healthy and happy, and we want him to be healthy and happy. It's just our roads may be a little different, and how do we get to a place where we're kind of walking on the same road, basically. So that's it. I don't think we've disagreed on a lot of things. Maybe the things you haven't told me I would disagree with. But for the most part, we've been pretty aligned, but we've worked at that, I would say.
Okay. So, from some perspective, as your mother points out, she has some practical knowledge of the psychology of how human beings operate. She has experience from two older children, so hands-on experience is always the most important part. So then let's turn our attention to perhaps your friends who had difficulties, unlike you. And if you were to put them in themes, so what were the biggest themes where your friends struggled? Because let's say, another advantage perhaps is that your mother grew up in Canada, so she has some understanding of the Western perspective. So maybe you have some friends, or maybe others here can start to join the conversation. What are the challenges? If you have to put them in themes, what would those be?
One I've seen a lot for sure is like money related things, like going out costs money, joining fraternity costs money, and like even outside of South Asians, I've seen it with my other friends as well, where like the parents are not fully on board with that, and they have some like pretty big disagreements over it. Like, I don't support you joining fraternity. I'm not paying for that. Like, get a job. And I have like seen them like have difficulties with that. And if it's like really important to them, they will like go and get a job and pay for it if they want to.
What about how South Asian parents maybe, how much do they encourage their kids to be social versus the focus on academics versus, again, this is not to say South Asian parents are at fault, because it's just there's the cultural differences are so extreme in so many ways that it makes it so challenging. But what do you see with that, and what do you think kids are challenged with in terms of those things, whether it's high school or college?
Definitely for college, I can say the parents are like, they care about academics. I don't know if they really ask about like their social life. I haven't really seen that in my experience, but I think the parents are they give them more space in college, and the kids that I've interacted with have it kind of instilled with them that like they shouldn't go out and they should study and they should get. So I think at that point it's like already in their head. And in high school is when I used to see like their parents like really get on them about like what classes they should take and like how much they should study, and not to like see their friends. So.
And as a parent, I mean, it's not like it's perfect either, but I sometimes wonder, should I have imposed more academic pressure, right? And so every individual family has to figure out what that balance is, right? Should I have driven, you've done very well, but should I have pushed you harder? Would that have been better? I mean, I don't know. So just as a parent, I'm saying it is hard to strike that balance, because sometimes there is that feeling that maybe I should have asked more questions. But again, I think just from my life experience, I prioritize the relationship, and hopefully you can come to me if you need something. But do you think parents should ask their kids more about social stuff, or how do you think that impacts their mental health?
Like, I think only asking about academics can be like pretty tough for a child, like no matter what age you are. It's just like constant, because it's always on their mind. Like even when you're not asking about it, they're still like thinking about it. And like sometimes you really need like certain people, or just like time away from thinking about school and doing like the homework and studying, because it's really important for mental health. Like when you kind of have like a better thought process, and you can clear your head once in a while, I think it like correlates to like better performance, because you're not stressed about it all the time. So you're not going through like performance anxiety.
So what kind of challenges have you faced in college with the transition? What's been difficult?
I was super busy. I started pledging my fraternity, and I was also running for student senate at the same time. And I didn't have a lot of time. I was just like every day, all day, I was just doing stuff. And that did kind of like take a toll on my mental health a little bit. But what I found, you just have to kind of lean on people. Like I would talk to a lot of people about like the way I was feeling, and they would like be there for me and help me. And that really helped me a lot. And I've formed like some of my like closest friends through both of those things, so I'm super grateful for it. But definitely, when I was going through it, it was pretty brutal for me.
Maybe talk a little bit more about that transition, that you formed a close set of friends in high school and some of that fragments and you build new relationships and such. So, so maybe talk us through that process. And
so, in high school, I like my main friends, we all went to different schools. I think except like one of them who I go to UF with, but it was definitely weird. Like we saw each other all summer, and then like we all get to school and like we're not talking anymore. Like we can't see each other, can't go get food with them. It was super odd, and I was like kind of scared. I was like, will I meet people? And like we still call once in a while, but it definitely kind of like there's been some space between us. We're not as close as we were. So I think like for me, what really helped was getting involved on campus, because you can meet a really like big group of people, all types of people from all walks of life. And I think just like I have friends that are all interested in everything, and it was a really hard change going from my like group in high school to my group in college. But I'm super grateful that I was able to meet like a great group of people.
You're talking a lot more about the social piece of college.
Yeah.
Are you going to class? Are you doing your work? What's going on here?
I do my work. I think.
See how he skipped going to class?
I set aside certain days when I like do all my assignments and go to class. I think for me, that just works good for me. I know some people like do work every single day. For me, I'm not one that like really enjoys academics or studying. So I'll sit down like 3 days a week, and I'll try to finish like all my assignments for the next couple of days, so I kind of don't have to worry about it anymore, and I can focus on like my involvement.
But it's about figuring out what works for you.
Definitely.
Knowing what the priority is, of course.
Yeah.
Because you're there for school.
Yeah, for sure.
And figuring out where you're kind of, not your weaknesses, but what your glitch is. Like this is hard for me, so I have to do it this way.
Yeah.
So that then you can also become, I guess, more well-rounded and take care of yourself, and hopefully incorporate some healthy coping mechanisms like exercise, and getting out is not the only way, right? Those kinds of things. Has that been important as well?
I feel like a lot of people have like different study skills and like
Styles.
like I have friends that will like wake up really early and study until like 12 o'clock every day, or they'll do it really late. I'm not a morning person, and I get really tired at night, so I do it like in the middle of the day for like personally, and that works for me. That's what I like to do. And then in terms of like healthy coping mechanisms, I think like going to the gym with friends is like also a great way to like get out there and clear your mind, while also like fostering the social life as well.
Mm-hmm. But the social piece you think is really, really important, huh? And is that because you kind of are separated from your family and and you kind of, does that give you, what does that give you?
I think 4 years away, like from your family and like the friends that you had growing up and you've been with throughout school can be like super detrimental to people if you don't have a good group. Like your mental health can really suffer if you're just going through college only focused on academics and not really the social aspect. So that's why I think it's super important for like kids in college to kind of lean on like their friends in order to avoid
because
that.
You lose that whatever support system you have in a home is automatically just obviously not there anymore.
Definitely,
so it's important to replace that in some way. That makes sense.
I would like to open it up. We have a lot of young folks here. Go ahead, ask questions. No? It's always dangerous to put the audience.
I'm a mom of high schooler, so considering you're academically, you're trying to balance, right? So you have been to college. How would you go back, if you could, back in the high school? How would you schedule your studies or social life? How should, it's not sure, what should be the pattern? What are the advices you would give for the high schoolers right now? How should they balance?
Because high school is tough with the schedule,
Yeah.
right? The hours that you're in high
For
school
sure.
and stuff makes it challenging.
Yeah. I was in high school. I was pretty big on like not doing anything socially during like the weekdays until I got like later on into school and in like senior year when it like matters less. But like my like sophomore and junior year, I definitely like didn't hang out with my friends like on like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I would definitely make sure that I could like hang out with them on like a Friday or like a Saturday, and then on Sunday like I would just go back to like doing like homework or whatever I have to do like for that Monday and Tuesday. And that's just what worked for me personally. I know like some people would hang out with their friends like on the weekdays too. That kind of like distracts me from like studying, so I never.
So you're really talking about figuring out what works for you, but it's not cutting things out completely. It's having proper limitations around them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because you don't want to go like only study or only be social. You need like a good balance, and it's really hard to find the balance.
Thank you.
Yeah, and unfortunately there is no specific formula, right? It all depends on the kid. There's some children who have, depending on their learning pattern, some might have to put in more of an effort. Others, will wing it and do fine. And those are the ones that make you most nervous, of course, because you feel like they're not doing anything, yet they pull it together somehow, right? So it's ultimately it's understanding how your child's brain is structured, for that child to understand how their learning patterns are structured, and then sort of working with that and saying how much effort do I have to put in and what works for me.
But it's really, I guess, about talking to them and listening to them about what they're experiencing. Because in my mind, it's like, oh, you should sit down for 3 hours every day and do 30 minutes on each subject or whatever, prescription or whatever that I thought it should be. But really kind of listening and asking your kid what works for you and what doesn't work for you and how can we create balance. Because I think that is a trap as parents that we fall into, is how things are supposed to be or should be. And that kind of can create a lot of pressure for kids, especially if they're not able to do it that way.
Even at more of a basic level, right? So thinking as a parent, as I'm a father of 16-year-old twin girls, lots of hands-on learning happening for me right now. But in middle school and such, I'll ask the kids, so have you done your homework? And they're like, yep, did it in school. It's like, what kind of homework gets done in school? Well, how's that even homework, right? But the way teaching happens is so dramatically different for our kids here than it was for us, that it's very difficult to fathom, right? I would suggest for those who have younger kids and all, if you can volunteer and actually go spend some time in the classroom to see how it operates, that will actually ease a lot of your anxiety about how your children are learning, right? Because for us, I won't talk about school per se, but even in medical school, right? There was a time, there's a big internal medicine book with 2 volumes, and there was a time I could tell you on which page, on the footnote, what is written. It's totally useless. But you have to do that in order to pass, otherwise you will not pass, right? That's not how the system works. This is not how they're taught. They are taught to think for themselves, which again creates a certain amount of problem in the sense that we culturally, like, let's not think for ourselves. Let's figure out what the group think is, and let's work with that, right? Where here, it is like, what is your idea? How would you do it? How would you learn? And it is very challenging for us as parents to see that, because it seems like it can seem disrespectful because of our cultural framework. So one suggestion I would make is anybody who can go in the school and volunteer in the classroom, do it, because it will really show you how the system works. Two, don't assign your learning patterns to your child, because that will never work, because we were all forced into learning a certain way, which had its benefits, it had its negatives, and they have their own pattern of learning.
I think Ashwin has to go, so.
Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So social media is, we know it's a distraction, but
Yeah.
it can also be helpful, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
But how did you cope up with the distraction element of it, and how are you successful? If you're
Have you
successful.
coped with it yet?
I definitely do get distracted. I think it's kind of unavoidable. Yeah, you can fall into the trap easily. I've had times where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna scroll for like 30 minutes and then go to bed, and it'll be like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. So like that trap.
Doom scrolling?
It's sometimes unavoidable. I think kind of like saving it is what I do. Like I'll try really hard not to touch it until like I have all my work done and I've gone to all my meetings, and then like okay, yeah, like scroll for a little bit and try not to have it turn into like 4 a.m. But I feel like sometimes like you are gonna fall into that trap and you just have to kind of accept it.
So you're saying it's like a reward at the end of finishing all your work?
That's kind of how I treat it. Like, cause if I'm having an assignment due that day and I get caught like scrolling, I could 100% like miss my deadline, and like no one wants to miss their assignments. So I think by really like treating it kind of as like a reward, that's what's worked for me.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Please get some sleep, don't be up till 4 a.m.
Thank you.
All right.
We just thought it would be just nice to hear live conversation
I can do the moderator.
with the team. Sure.
Well, it's very easy. All questions go to Rita.
Yeah. So,
Well, we had some questions, you got this message.
Okay.
so just wanted to get a feel for the audience. How many of you here have college-going kids or kids already in college, parents? Any of you?
Early high school.
Okay, all right. So how many of you have kids in high school? All right, very few, very few, very few. How many of you have kids in middle school? Oh, wow, okay. And how many in elementary school? There you go, so we have a good mixture of different age groups, I guess. Anybody who's a senior in high school? Anybody that's a senior in high school who's getting ready to go to college?
They're all studying at home.
Or not. All right. So, high schoolers, let's talk about high schoolers first. Did they just, you guys just get into high school, like they started on 9th grade, or people are in their 10th, 11th grades?
10.
10th?
9th grade.
9th grade, okay.
Junior.
All right.
Maybe
So,
freshmen to juniors.
yeah, who's in junior? Who's a parent of a junior? All right, great. So, if I can ask you a question, are you right now thinking about college admissions, the process of getting into college, and things like that? SATs, ACTs, and things like that. Or are you thinking about how the kid is going to cope up in college?
Both.
Both? Okay, excellent. So I think we'll keep the academic side aside, the SATs and ACTs. But if I can ask Dr. Goel, what's the coping mechanism? I know, like you said, there's no formula. What is it that kids and parents have to watch out for when they transition from high school into a college?
You have three experience with three. I'll tell you about my fears.
Okay, we can do that. Well, I think, know, any change is always challenging, right? So we're talking about specific transitions, but change is always challenging. It's hard. We usually dread change because of the fears associated with and the anxieties that we kind of come up with. All the possibilities are very endless in our minds. So I think coping as far as parents, because I've seen this also not just in the South Asian community. The majority of my people I work with are Caucasian or American, so to speak. So it's a common struggle, right, for parents feeling like things should be done a certain way, as Dr. Chauhan was speaking to, especially junior year is so heavily weighted with the SAT and grades, and this is the year that counts, and all the AP classes and having everything lined up. And in reality, getting into college has become so difficult now. I'm not sure exactly what has changed, but getting into college is really hard. There's a lot more demands on our kids. Academics are a piece of it, but now they're looking for people to be more well-rounded, so to speak, and how do you do that? How do you help facilitate that for your children? As parents, I think one of the most important things we can do, though, is really put our fears aside. Concerns turn into fears very quickly, and once we're coming from a place of fear, and we're kind of managing our own anxiety about our kids by coming at them, did you study, did you this, did you... It really puts a lot of pressure on them, and it really puts a lot of anxiety onto them. Anxiety is energy, and we kind of transfer it without realizing it, and that's the last thing we want to do with our children. So I think for parents to be really aware of that and utilize whatever coping mechanisms they have, which, I'm a big proponent about movement and breathing and relaxation and really incorporating those things, but really looking at what are true concerns versus what we call catastrophic fears, right? Fears and anxieties of things that are not likely to happen, but are so scary that we focus on those things. Like, what if you don't get into this college? And what if this doesn't happen? Or what if that? And I think helping as parents to not come from that place would be really helpful for our kids. And I don't know, some of the kids maybe can answer that question as well. What can your parents do to help you guys when you're a junior? Because I'm sure it is. Or is that true? Are you guys experiencing your parents in that way, like we're assuming?
And I can kick the parents out if you guys don't want to speak in front of them. We can do that. We can kick them all out, have a conversation, and bring them back in. But I'm sure they can hear it, so speak up. You guys, whoever is sort of closest to starting the process of looking at colleges and SATs, why don't you tell us what we need to hear as parents?
Or just at any stage with academics.
Or anything at all. What are we doing wrong?
So I called the parents, but who are the kids here who are in high school? See hands, everybody in high school? The kids.
All right. No
Kids
more
in high
kids.
school can raise up.
We can bring it up
All
to
the
the
way
chair
up.
and interview.
All right.
you.
Okay.
Yes.
So where do you go to high school?
Oh, that's all.
Okay. Over here in the back. Who else is in high school here in the back? Yeah. Which school do you go to?
Beachside High.
Beachside High. Nice.
So if you guys are not going to speak, I'm going to start putting you in a spot. You can start from the front back or back front, whatever works.
So,
Back
Yes.
pictures, always.
So my question is how to find the deep-rooted interest of a kid, because what I have seen, there are two extreme kids. Some are absolutely clear, I want to become going to medical, engineering, business, law, or any kind of social administration.
Sure.
There are other sets of kids who are totally confused. They just don't know what to do. They just want to enjoy their socializing and all, but they are not clear with their career. What's their deep-rooted interest? What's their passion? What they want to become, and what they want to do as a profession when they grow up.
Let me answer your question with a question. At what age should one be clear as to what they want to do in their life, what they want to achieve? Anyone? So it's an interesting question, and I'll tell you why I asked that, because it's a very South Asian question, right? Because culturally, everything for us is fixed in a box, right?
you should finish your education by this age, you should have a very clear career path by this age, you should get married by this age, you should have children by this age, and you should never stop listening to your parents, no matter how old you get.
Never.
So that is how life is constructed culturally for us. That is not how life is constructed in this culture, right? So that's one area of conflict that tends to happen. The second part is, who's to say, especially now in the times that we live in, where we actually cannot tell the future, in 10 years, 15 years, what the world is going to look like with all the technological changes. Who's to say that the ones who are having fun and socializing, building those skills as what you would call fun and wasting time, and I would call that too, as a parent, would be more successful because they will be more aligned to figure out whatever the world looks like. Right? Now, to answer it in a more practical fashion, I think it's important to keep having that conversation, and yet being very careful that you are not telling them what to do, that you are not projecting your desires onto the child because you want them to be a physician or you want them to be an engineer. Keep having a conversation about it, right? And eventually you will find that they will find their tribe and they will find their purpose. It's when we compare them. So my child, so I have twin girls, they're not identical, they're fraternal. And before I became a parent, I thought that parenting had a big role. Now I think you don't kill them, you feed them, they'll take their own path, right? Because they are entirely different human beings. One of them got her license the very first day she could get it. A week later, she's like, I'm working at a restaurant on weekends, which as an Indian father is like, oh my God, right? What is happening here, right? So she has decided she's an adult. And the other one's like, yep, stay at home, do her homework, take extra classes. If A goes to B, right? A goes to B, it's a disaster in our household. And so I have to take them in different rooms and give different messages. Like, can you please bring that C up to a B, please? It's like, don't worry about it. The other one's like, honey, it's a high B, it's okay. You don't need to cry about that. It's all right, right? So you will have to go with wherever the child is. Just don't apply the rules of South Asia where we grow up on these children. It will just lead to conflict and it will not help with it.
And I think it comes from that place of fear. Like if they don't figure it out now, that this is going to happen or that's going to happen. And having said all of this, we also want to make sure our children are motivated, that they are on a healthy path as well. But I think to your point, it's like a lot about listening to them, and it's hard. It's really hard to do. Ashwin and I were talking about it, but it's not easy, right? It's not easy to just listen to what he wants or what he thinks is best for him, because it might not resonate with me. And I have had to learn to engage in the conversation. Why do you think that's okay? Why am I seeing it this way and you're seeing it this way? What do you think? And I don't think we listen to our kids enough, just in general as parents, because we have jobs and a household to run and 5,000 things to do, and you're one who cries about the high B as the dream child, so to speak, right? But is that really what, it doesn't have to be that way. So these things are hard. You do want to motivate them, and I do think that the best way to motivate, or one of the ways to try to motivate kids, is through asking more questions. What do you want for your life then? This is what concerns me. Do you worry about that, and why do you worry about it, or why do you not worry about it? And again, it's hard to listen because their answers are sometimes really hard to digest. They're hard to listen to, but that's where, again, I talk a lot about we have to manage our own anxieties about our kids so that we can listen to them.
That's a valid point. Because of the place we come from, if we did not have a very clear plan, right, life will not turn out well. To be successful meant that you have to have a structured plan, that you worked really, really hard towards that plan and made it happen, right? So we all feel fearful when our children are doing whatever they want to do, whatever path they want to take, which is not a structured plan, it is very distressing. It's very anxiety-provoking.
Or not structured as per how we would
want it to be
want it to
structured.
be.
Yeah.
It is hard. It's hard, it's scary. And again, that's where that fear, we have to kind of, as a parent, that's a hard job to do, but put that aside and just listen and try to help them.
And listening in general is difficult, right? So one of the training things, I'm sure Dr. Boyle had a similar or better training at that, given that, her main job is listening. You know how long physicians wait before they interrupt their patient when you go in to see a physician? About 40 seconds. And they start talking, right? So one of the new training things that is happening in medical schools to say, keep your mouth shut, listen, let the patient set the agenda, right? So, and again, it is one of those fast-paced things. You're doing a 15-minute visit, you're doing a 30-minute visit, you're thinking about not having completed the note of the last person and what the next person is going to bring. And so that is life, right? That you have your work challenges, you have these challenges, and you really want things to run smoothly with your child. And if it is not as smooth as you would like it to be, then we get distressed, and then we actually stop listening altogether and start fighting.
It'd be nice to hear from some of the
High
kids.
school,
Right?
all right, high schooler, can you stand up?
We're assuming these are the things
High
you guys are
schoolers.
struggling with.
I know, right?
High schoolers,
Like,
stand up.
We're not listening.
All right, you have many high schoolers, right?
All right.
Okay. One thing I would like to ask you is, you heard what the doctors are talking here. What is on top of your mind right now? And anybody can say.
Studying for my ACT/SAT.
Okay. What about you? What is on top of your mind? There's no right or wrong answer. It's just what is on top of your mind? What comes to your mind?
And you're not allowed to get in trouble for
Yeah.
anything you say.
My career, I really get confused on what kind of doctor I want to be, because when I was a little kid, I always wanted to be a pediatrician, and then I'm in biomed right now in my high school, and they're teaching me about forensic scientists right now. And it's kind of confusing because it's fun, but
Okay.
Good. What about you?
Just getting the grades and
Okay.
yeah, so that getting the grades, and like getting the classes, extracurriculars, and all that.
Okay.
I think studying for the SAT and getting all my requirements for a college application. Maintaining all my grades and all my classes.
doing good on testing.
What about you?
Finding time for everything.
What do you think?
Finding what?
Time for everything.
Time management. Great point, actually. What about you?
Choosing which path I should take, like which career, also balancing social life and academics. Finishing my schoolwork and keeping my A's. That's what I get my grades up. Getting my grades for school.
Okay.
Good.
A
So
lot
if
of
this was
worry.
blinded,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you were blinded and we heard those answers, we'll say these are South Asian kids.
Yes.
Almost every one of them is thinking
Worry
about
about
their
their grades.
Yeah.
Which is okay, that's good, right? That's what you go to school for, but should that be consuming you to that degree? Or are you feeling a lot of pressure within yourself or from your parents, or is it both at this point? Or do you even know?
Yeah.
What's the fear associated with the grades? How about that? What is the fear if you don't get your grades up or you don't keep them up? What do you fear is going to happen?
I'll fall behind.
You'll fall behind, and then what?
I won't be able to bring it back up.
Okay, and then what?
I guess my GPA goes wrong.
And then what?
I'll lose my classes.
And then what?
So I,
And then what? You won't get into college,
yeah.
and then you won't have a job, and then you won't have a career, and then you won't have a house, and you won't have, oh my God, no wonder you have to study. No, seriously, right? You're worried about all of that stuff. Is that what everybody kind of feels like? Maybe you don't think it through that way,
Yeah.
right? What are those catastrophic fears that really aren't, are they realistic fears?
I don't really know.
We don't think about it, right? We just think, oh God, I've just got to do this. But it creates a lot of anxiety within us. And so it's not about not working hard, and it's not about not studying, it's not about not doing well. We want you to achieve your stuff, just without stress, without the anxiety.
You guys can sit down. I mean, this is so
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's true. My biggest nightmare is someone making me stand up and answer questions. Which comes from teachers making me stand on the chair. That's where that trauma comes from. But that's an interesting. It's an interesting challenge, right? That no matter how hard we try, we as parents do put pressure on our children to get good grades, things like that. And you guys are already putting a lot of pressure on yourselves. Plus, you have each other to put pressure on each other, right? So even if sometimes parents are not putting pressure, you are seeing the cohort that you're with, you're seeing your friends and other kids, and putting pressure on yourselves. And there is a fine line, as Dr. Goel was trying to point out, there's a fine line to where that worrying is helpful, right? If you're not worrying at all, you're partying and having fun and spending time on social media, then our performance drops. But there's also another line that if worrying gets to such an extent that all you're doing is worrying, then you cannot focus on what you're trying to do. And therein lies the challenge of how do you find that balance where, yes, there is a certain amount of worrying or nervousness or anxiety, whatever term you want to give it, which is optimal for your performance, but it's not reaching a stage where it is now actually restricting you from performing.
And that's, I think we underestimate how much mental energy that worrying and stressing and maybe calculating, I need to get this number tomorrow so I can get my grade to this, how much mental energy that takes, which is, it's exhausting too, right? And so when we talk about time management, if we're able to keep ourselves in a place where we aren't feeding those anxieties, would time management become easier actually, right? Because I do believe that for all of us across the board, we don't realize how much we give to our own fears and anxieties. These thoughts are kind of automatic. I say it's like a movie that runs in the back of your head, and you may not be watching it, but it's running all the time, and it's impacting you all the time. That maybe you saw something on social media, or somebody got into this school, or this happened, or someone got this on their SAT, or got an early admission, whatever it might be. All those things are going to kind of continue to feed that. So we have to be very aware of how much energy we are expending with worrying. And I know it's easy to say not to worry, not to be anxious, but that fine line that Dr. Chauhan referred to is where is it helpful and where does it become detrimental, harmful, and actually bring us farther from our goal instead of closer to our goal.
You said that you were learning forensic medicine and you're enjoying it. Does it make it easier for you to perform better in that class because you're enjoying it, right? So one cognitive trick to reduce your anxiety is to not focus on studying for the test. Right? So if you were studying forensic medicine or whatever you were studying in biomedicine, because it will get you an A, you will not enjoy it. Or the pleasure will reduce because then it becomes performative. Right? We are performing, we are learning this because I have to get an A, I have to get the questions right. So again, it is not always possible. You have to prepare for a test. But much of the time, try to ask yourself, how do I make this learning fun? Whatever I'm studying, physics or chemistry or biology or calculus, which I don't see how anyone can find that fun, but nonetheless.
Some people do.
I know, right? Some brains do. Not our brains,
No,
definitely not. So, but try and, so what do I mean by cognitive? And again, I'll let Dr. Goel explain that more. She played a little trick there. She took the worrying to its nth degree. What is the end result? Oh my God, I am not going to get a good grade is my fear. So then what will happen is a catastrophic fear of my life will be a failure. But really, it doesn't. Does that one B means that life has all fallen apart, right? Not necessarily, right? So, okay, so not UCF, what does it matter, right? There are so many colleges, so many options where we can go and learn, because ultimately the end point is learning and creating and making something. Another big, sorry, I'm backtracking, I'll come back to this. Another big difference in the South Asian way of thinking and the Western way of thinking is we always think of what are we going to become. We are going to become a physician, we are going to become an engineer. And in a Western sense, much of that is what are we going to create, what are we going to do, right? It's a very major cognitive difference, and it leads to conflict sometimes in the household. So we'll put that aside. Coming back, what we are feeling comes easy. I am anxious, I'm scared, I'm angry. What I am thinking comes difficult. That's a learning process. So what Dr. Goel did with you is, so what are you thinking? I'm not even aware of that thinking, but I'm fearful of some bad outcome. And she forced you to think. She forced you to come up with a thought, and in the end you said, I actually don't know, right? Why am I? What am I catastrophizing about, although I know I'm afraid that something horrible is going to happen, right? So if you guys can learn that trick of saying, okay, hold on, pause, what am I thinking? And is it true? What is the evidence for this thought? Kind of turn your brain into a scientific experiment of, I'm feeling something, but what am I thinking? And then saying, what is the evidence for that thought, and what is the evidence against this thought? And I use a little example to make my point. So let's say that all of you high school kids are given, it's a textbook example, so Dr. Goel will probably laugh at me for using it. Let's say all of you are given a book, and you're told to read that book and write a report by the end of the summer. Right? Now, one of you takes a look at 1 or 2 pages, you don't understand some of the words, it induces nervousness, fear, like I'm not doing this, I'm dropping this subject, this is nonsense. Someone else reads a couple of pages, this is easy, has fun throughout summer, a week before, puts a report together, submits it. Third person reads the book, writes a report, is nervous, is the report good enough, gets 3 people to see it, edits it, spends half the summer doing all of that, right? And misses out on spending time with friends. So what happened there? Same level of intelligence, same ability, same challenge, right? But the emotional response of one person was fear, and their thought was, this is too difficult for me. They did not challenge their thought, they engaged in a behavior of rejecting the book or leaving the subject. The other person was overconfident. They're like, oh, this is easy, I can do it. They could have done a better job, but they engaged in a behavior of not doing their work and did it towards the end. And the third person was so nervous that by the time they submitted the project, it was not theirs. It was everybody else's ideas, plus they missed out on other things. And so at that stage, when you are faced with a challenge, if you're going to learn to ask yourself, what am I thinking and how am I behaving, those 2 things we can change. And only then how we feel changes. We cannot say, hey, I'm going to be happy now. Oh my God, I'm going to be sad now. Even actors who do those things think of something, right? Imagine something to bring about those emotions. So emotions are the end results, fears are the end results of our thoughts and feedback loop from our behaviors, right? So start to practice that will help bring the anxiety down.
Yeah, because actually you mentioned emotional response, you're having an emotional response to something really, really bad happening. You're not responding to getting a B or whatever on that one test. You've attached it to all of this negative outcome without realizing it. And then our emotional response is coming from that huge negative outcome, like I'll be homeless, or, and surprisingly, people do attach these things, like if I don't get into the right school, whatever the right one is, then this will happen, and again, we're not consciously aware of that. So it is important to kind of back up, stay in the moment, and kind of really think about, is my emotional response coming from what is right in front of me, or what doesn't even exist yet, but are all of these possibilities. And for the human brain, negative possibilities are absolutely endless. They come naturally, they come quickly, they come automatically. So really kind of being more aware of those thoughts and trying to get in touch with those. Because again, I think it takes up a lot of time and a lot of energy that we don't even realize we're expending. And it really causes a lot of distress, and that's where you start to see hopelessness come in, feelings of not just anxiety, but depression, hopelessness, fear, all of that starts to kick in a little bit, or it can.
Dr. Rowe, some questions on the messages. Would you like to take those?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, the first question, and this is from the parents' perspective. Okay. So, question. How can teens handle and overcome the mobile usage distraction so that the time spent on their creative projects and passions is not compromised? Are there any proven solutions that the teens can use?
You know, this question about mobile phones, and if Ashwin was here, he would say every Indian parent blames everything on the cell phones, right? So I think that cell phones are hard. They were designed to keep us hooked, and they're really, really good at it, right? I have a hard time putting down my phone. It's kind of sitting here now, wondering what's going on there, right? We can understand how difficult it is, and this is a fully developed, mature adult brain, and yet it is hard to do that. Our tendency is to want to take them away as parents, get rid of your phone, and again, I'm speaking more to the parents. Well, it was a parent question. So, but they're here to stay. I think our kids, obviously they need them now, because I can't, I need my OTP code to log onto this, to do that, so we cannot get rid of them. How do we, instead of blaming the phones, how do we teach our children to manage their phones from day one? Both through talking to them, helping them understand how they can set limits on it themselves, but also looking at our own usage, right? Sometimes I'm like, you shouldn't text and drive, and my kids are like, we do it too, right? It's like, oh gosh, I do. And how am I utilizing it, and being really aware of that, because we can say a million things. It's really easy to say all the things that should be done, but in reality, people respond, and especially our own children respond to what we do. And so I think that's really important to kind of take note on being honest with ourselves about how we're doing it, but also kind of not making it the enemy. But if this is our friend and it's a really fun friend that we want to hang out with all the time, how do we say, hey, not right now, maybe later? How do we do that? How can we help our children do that?
Yeah, I think like Ashwin said, I liked it. When he was in high school, during the weekdays, he was not hanging out with us. It was fun to do, but he was not hanging out with us.
Right, yeah.
Some kind of a
it's like,
limitation.
so I don't, we're doing your phone use after you've accomplished. So, because it's interesting, and maybe Dr. Khan can speak more to this, just a quick flip, it's like, I think 17 seconds it takes you to refocus on whatever you were doing, which is a lot of time, actually. It's surprising. And I do that quick flip all the time, but how much time is my brain having to readjust? So it's time lost. So these things are important to educate our kids about, so that they can then decide, because if you are stressed about school, and if you do want to get things done, how can you then make your phone your friend and show your parents that this is a good friend, and I know how to manage this friend, versus kind of it becoming a point of, I'm going to take your phone, because you're on the phone all the time.
I agree. So from a data perspective, amount of usage and then the time of usage. So if kids are using it at night, there's a very, very clear link with poor mental health outcomes. There's absolutely no doubt about it. So I think, once again, negotiating, sitting down with the kids, setting up a time at which the phone should be switched off at night is important. The phone should not be by your bedside on especially if it's distracting, if you have all the tools to kind of shut it down so that it's not distracting you, or there's a tendency if you do wake up at night, you reach to the phone and start looking, and then that impacts your sleep. So I think at a very practical level, that is one basic rule that everyone should follow. Switch off your phones after a certain time, and that should apply to the family. So if you do it together as a family, like everybody switches on their phone and puts it in one place, that's the only way it works. Otherwise, you know,
I will admit I have not had any success with that
Right,
with any of my children or myself.
So
it's a hard one.
It is a hard one, but that's the whole, you know, the idea of that double bind, right? You are saying something and doing something different. You're giving opposite messages, and that actually creates a lot of conflict in the minds of children. So parents, do what you are telling your kids to do, and kids, definitely, if you want to stay healthy from a mental health perspective, please set a time to switch off, right? So for example, again, using the friends analogy, you're going to hang out with your friends, and occasionally you will have a sleepover with them, but most of the time you go to your homes, right? So think of that phone as a friend who you have spent your time with, but then it's time for the phone to go in its box, right?
I will be addressing his 4 a.m. doom scrolling.
Exactly, right? So that's one part. The second part is, as Dr. Goel pointed out, that phones are doing it. Like, you cannot take the phones away from the kids because their teachers are sending them text messages, which still boggles my mind, but it is what it is. Right? All their homework is coming up on the phones and things like that. Plus, most importantly, it is a continuation of socialization, right? So when landline phones came in, I don't know how many of you, I was in high school when my home got its first landline phone, and it was fascinating to be able to speak to your friends after school, right? Because our schools, for the kids, our schools were not neighborhood schools in the sense that we didn't live in the same place, we came from different areas of the town. So you sometimes never saw some of your friends unless you were in school. So being able to connect, so they will start a conversation in person in school, and it continues on social media and text messaging and things like that. And if they don't participate in it, by the time 2 hours later, they're what has been your record? 1,084 messages? More than that if you didn't look at your phone for about 3 hours? I'm not making that number up. That is how many messages one of my daughters had on her phone. Then we took it away for 3 hours. So like, how do you get anything done? You know, 1,080. But her biggest complaint was now she's lost track of the whole conversation.
She has no clue what's happening.
She has no idea.
She's
like,
socially isolated now.
Exactly, right? So that we have to understand that challenge, plus being able to then say, well, how do we manage that? You know, how many groups are you in? Can you be in one group versus multiple groups? In some groups, can you just be someone who's lurking? In some groups, you are participating. Those kinds of conversations have to happen because you can't take the phone away because it has become a part of life.
Do the kids experience this as a challenge with your parents, or just within yourself, or both? Either? Anyone?
This time we'll start from the front.
Oh, yeah. You look like you have something to say.
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
Yes. So tell us about your relationship with the cell
I
phone.
actually have a question. So,
Sure.
where do you think is like the fine line between parents asking way too many questions and overwhelming the child, and like, you know, like the other way around?
So questions about school, about everything.
No, like how, like where's the fine line from where a parent asks too much to where it's overwhelming, and like asking enough?
Yeah, sure. So, but asking about your social life, asking about your phone use, asking about your academic performance,
Just
anything in general.
involvement in your life. Question.
So if I reframe this, is it fair to say you are saying, I want my parents to be interested but not overbearing? That's a fair statement. You have to define that because, and I will tell you not as a psychiatrist but as a parent, it seems to change on a day-to-day basis on me, right? So today, I'm having that conversation, I'm asking questions and getting very excited answers. And tomorrow, I'm trying to engage just at the right level. It's like, oh my God, can you leave me alone, right? So there's variability. The variability is day to day, variability is child to child, and variability is topic to topic. So certain topics, like, don't talk to me about this. Certain topics, yes, ask me more. So I think you will have to educate your parents on a daily basis that, hey, let's talk more about this. Let's have a conversation about this particular topic. Or I understand that, this grade is poor, or this grade might not be as good as, the neighbors, but I'm putting in my effort. This is my plan to bring it up, right? Because disagreements don't happen on me asking them about all the social drama that is going on. They can talk for hours, I can listen for hours, it's all fun. But the moment it turns to academics, or if they feel that I'm critical of what their role in a particular social situation is, then I'm interfering. So the balance is, one rule is tell me, am I problem solving or am I listening? Because when sometimes you are telling things to parents, we are thinking you're sharing a problem and you're looking for a solution when all you are doing is cribbing, right? So maybe telling them that, I'm just telling you, Mom, I'm just telling you what's happening in my life. I don't want a solution to this. I have it figured, or I'll figure it out. That helps too, defining the topics, right? Okay, this topic, this is the time frame. We can sit down, talk about it, review everything, then we are done. Other things, obviously, I'll come and ask for help, or I'm in distress. So a lot of it is undefined, right? A lot of this is not said in words. And it is especially difficult for your parents from South Asia because South Asian parents or South Asian people in general do not use words to express their emotions. We do not say, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry. You're just supposed to know that the other person is sad, happy, or angry, or whatever, right? Yeah. But in this culture, you guys learn to say, you're taught words for emotions. That's a very important thing. So teach your parents that. Does that answer your question, or am I confusing you more? It does. Okay.
And I think, I know that when I bombard my children with questions, it is generally because I'm worried about something. And it's really hard in that moment as a kid because she's just annoying. I still get, my mom would say, so snap at her when she asks me too many questions, right? Because it just, you get overwhelmed or worked up, or you feel doubted, or you feel some kind of way, and you react. But maybe taking a pause and just saying, what are you worried about? The same way that I'm encouraging parents to listen to their kids, I think it's important for kids to listen to their parents. And I know when my kids say to me, well, wait a minute, Mom, you're asking me 5,000 questions. What is it that you're worried about? What do you think is going to happen? Maybe I tell them my trick, I guess. But that's helpful as a parent, too, to kind of go, okay, let me slow down. Because my kid is listening to me. Because I bombard them or I repeat myself when I feel like they're not listening to me. And it is a relationship where we can do that for our parents as well, and thereby set some healthy boundaries, and that's a very bad word in the South Asian room, but to set some boundaries around what's okay and what's not okay, or what's difficult for us to talk about, or where we feel like it's just too much. Because we want them to be informed, we want them to be comfortable, and parents become anxious when they feel like they don't know what's happening, and then they will come at you with questions. I don't know if that resonates with you. Yeah, and it is hard to slow down and listen, for sure, for all of us, because we feel doubted, I think, is when our parents do that. But that's maybe something you can think about, slowing yourself down so you can help them.
Okay, there's a question on the live stream. It's more for parents whose kids are in college. Is it advisable to visit the kids a couple of times during the first year? Will it be supportive?
Kids in college. I would say, I would encourage parents to visit your child in college as many times as possible in the first year. Afterwards, they don't want to see your face anymore, but I think definitely as a parent, I mean, I'll let the doctor say from a, from a professional expertise perspective, but as a parent, I would say they would like it. They may not ask you to come visit them, but they would definitely like it.
I completely agree with that. I think that transition is challenging. They are trying to find their place, but to know that you're there supportively. I think how you show up on your visits is really important too, though, right? And because if I go and visit and I'm like, oh, your room's a mess, or this is happening, what'd you do? Why'd you do that? I'm not helping my child feel supported. I'm not going to be very welcome the next time, and I'm doing it from a place of love, right? Because hey, let me, clean this for you, or do this, or why didn't you do this? But it is important to just kind of, the power of not saying anything sometimes, and just being, I think it's so important, so that they know that you are there, not to criticize them, but to, and if you have a concern, and I've talked to my kids about this too, I don't want to be critical of you, I don't want to come across that way, but if I have a genuine concern about something, I also feel like it's my responsibility to express that to you in some way, right? And so kind of learning how to be there for them and do that, it's challenging though.
Yep. I mean, very specifically, I think there's a parents' weekend that pretty much every college organizes. I think it's a good idea to actually show up for those things.
100%, because it's a support to your children, it shows interest, it shows them that you're still there, and that you want to immerse yourself in their world. Without judgment, that's the hard part though, just to be there, to experience it, because I think you'd be surprised when we say nothing, we get a lot more from them as parents.
One more question on the message. Sure. I'll ask Dr. Chauhan to probably start this one. The question is, again, from a parent's perspective. Kids are generally exposed to a number of cultures and lifestyles in the US. And all of them come with a lot of strong logic and narratives. Everybody has their thing. If you can suggest something as to why sticking to one root culture would be instrumental for the growth and progress. I guess it's almost an answer, but I'll let you speak from your experience.
Can I take a look at that, because I'm not sure I understood the question.
The question is, we have multiple cultures and backgrounds that people come across.
Okay.
Is there a benefit to sticking to one's root culture?
I see. So let me read this. Teens are generally exposed to a number of cultures and lifestyles here in the US, which come with a lot of strong logic and narratives. If you can suggest something to them as to why sticking to the root culture would be instrumental for their growth and progress?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question.
That's what
the way the question is framed, the answer is sticking to the root culture is the right way. Tell me how to stick to the root culture.
But isn't this from a parent's perspective?
Yeah. Yes.
What about from the child's perspective?
Right. So the question is the thesis correct?
Right. Exactly. That's the first question.
Right. Is the hypothesis correct that sticking to the root culture is the answer? So if you look at all the literature of acculturation, so acculturation is a process of, you come from as an immigrant, you come from a culture, and then you become part of a second culture. And it is especially difficult for second generation immigrants because they see remnants, sometimes distortions. For example, if you go back to India, India is not the same culturally that it was when you and I were growing up and talking about parents, right? But that India is stuck in us, in our head, right? So that's why I'm using the word distortion or certain idea of what that root culture is. That's there at home. And then, of course, there are all these different cultures or certain cultural value systems or way of doing things or studying that we've been talking about. That's there. And now, when we were growing up, it was our neighbors, friends, relatives, teachers, right? That was our value system. That is how we learned what adulting is, what life should be about. Now the whole world is our parents for our children. They're exposed to so many different ideas and value systems. It's mind-boggling. It can be confusing at times. So I think a healthy process of acculturation is that you learn new ideas, new ways of doing things, new ways of thinking about things, without letting go necessarily of what is good in your culture, right? And so last time I did this a few years ago, one of the parents kept asking me this question about values. So I brought him up and said, can you tell me what you mean by that word? What does value mean? And what we came to in the end is about relationships, physically intimate relationships in teenage years or early adulthood and such, because that's a huge stigma for us. That was a huge stigma for us when we were growing up, right? So is that good or bad? Who knows, right? Have everybody in this culture completely been destroyed? They're immoral because that intimacy is allowed. People are allowed to have boyfriends and girlfriends, and in fact even encouraged to a certain extent to try out those relationships, right? So what is the root? You first have to define the root. The root is we believe in hard work, right? That you have to work hard to succeed. That's a root that is across cultures will be important. That you care for your family, your loved ones, your neighbors. You are there for them if they are experiencing difficult times. I think that's a universal value that other than that, I think everything is malleable, everything is adaptable, right? So you say, okay, for example, so again, from a personal example, my 16-year-old going and working in a restaurant, my father who lives with us is like, I find this miserable. This is horrible. Can you stop her? And I'm not comfortable with the idea, but on the other hand, one can argue that that's a value of self-sufficiency. Of a child saying, I'm going to go find employment, I'm going to make my own money. Just last night she was like, okay, here's my first $300 that I get paid. I'm going to put 50 away for gas. I'm going to put 100 away for saving, right? There's 250 I'm going to spend. And I was like, 250 you're going to spend on what? Right? So, well, I need a new pair of jeans. So, great. She's learning something that there's no way for me to have taught her that. And that's the process of acculturation, that you see where the child is, you put the guardrails around, but you don't insist that you live life the way I lived when I was in India, or Pakistan, or Sri Lanka, or wherever, right? That's the process of acculturation, that you keep the core values, but you're also open to letting your kids be adults. Before we started, Dr. Goel and I were joking about this, that in Indian cultures, we are never adults as long as our parents are around.
Right, Mom?
Okay, so kids, close your ears, okay? So this is just for parents. So how many parents, and I'm saying something rather challenging, so let me choose my words carefully. So in India, this is how it happens. A boy will get married, wife will come home, a daughter-in-law will come home. After about a year or 2 years, the conflict that happens here at ages 14 to 18 happens in the household there. There's the struggle of separation. I want my own household. I want to become my own household. And there's a lot of conflict that goes on. That conflict happens in every culture. That conflict happens here from ages 14 to 16 to 18 because adulting starts to happen faster. The school every day from the very beginning is telling these kids, your opinion matters. What you want to do in life matters. How you want to do it in life should be your say. Which is the exact opposite message we have been listening when we were growing up, right? So that conflict is going to happen. The important part is saying, sure, try out these things, try them out with certain guardrails, right? And which will mean that we will have to swallow our discomfort to a certain extent. I think we keep coming back to that. This is all very scary. Do I check, did she make it on Life 360? Did she make it to her place of work? I do, right? But on the other hand, I'm still letting her do it. Right? So that's the balance.
And as someone who was born and raised, like many of you are here, I think that the concept of the root culture and the Indian culture was very, very important in my household. and I really value parts of the Indian culture. But I think it is very unrealistic to expect from a parent to expect being immersed here and having to live with the Western culture every single day and having to make our way and be successful in this culture and somehow hold on to whatever this root is. So again, as Dr. Chauhan said, it's like, what is the value system that you're trying to have your children hold on to? And it might be not dating. Actually, that's probably one of the biggest fears, is they'll end up marrying the wrong person. I think if we did that, like what next, you know, what's the fear? I think that is a very big one. And so somehow if we hold on to that culture or that root, whatever that was defined as in that question, and is it a realistic expectation? And is it going to cause so much distress? And does every family have to figure out, like, what are the things that were important in my family system that my parents wanted to instill in me, versus, and how do I then bridge that with the American culture? Because it is hard. And I think a lot of Indian kids then stick with Indian friends only. It's very challenging. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a great support network because you all are facing the same challenges. But I think it does make it hard as a kid, wondering, well, how come it's okay for me to go to school here with these people, but I can't marry any of these people, but I can't, you know, and those things, those are not things that as parents, I think, we think about. But it's a lot of confusion there. If we're here, why is this okay and this is not okay? And maybe those conversations need to be had in terms of what part of the root culture is important and explaining to your kids why, because that's the biggest thing. It's like, why? Why do you feel that way? And I think you'd be surprised that your kids probably are aligned with you a lot of the times, but we don't have those conversations, and we don't engage in that. We just come from a place of fear again, assuming that something bad is going to happen unless things look a certain way. Yes?
My question was that, did you guys agree to the system when you were little?
Which system?
Like how you studied, how your parents told you to, like...
Did I agree with my parents? Okay, now I'm going to get in trouble. You know, I will say that probably growing up, to be very honest, I think my parents gave me a lot of opportunity and freedom, and we did have a lot of conversations, but somehow it was internalized in me what certain expectations were as well, right? They didn't put overt pressure on me, like you have to do this, or, but I kind of understood, and I will say, as I reflect now on my childhood, I think that I probably didn't explore things because it was easier not to. I didn't want to have those conversations with them. I didn't want to question them. And so I would just automatically not explore certain things because it was easier for me. I don't think I ever really thought about whether I agreed or not. I think I was looking at what was just going to keep me safe and happy, which is, you know, a lot of times because I was very conflict averse. I didn't want to do that. Having said that, I was blessed that I didn't have a lot of pressures anyway, but looking back, no, I don't necessarily agree with the way everything was done, but I don't think my kids will either, right? That's not a cultural thing necessarily. That's just a parent-child thing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but culturally speaking, if your parents grew up in India or South Asia, that was not even a conversation.
Exactly,
right?
and that's the thing I did.
It was understood you will do what the system demands of you, right? I mean, I grew up in a Catholic school in India, and the moral of the story was beatings will continue till morale improves, right? So I lost track of how many times I was caned, sometimes just for asking a question that was uncomfortable, right? So it was understood that you are not an individual, you are part of a group. That's a big sort of cultural aspect that you have to recognize from where your parents come from, especially if they convey the fear of what others will think, right?
And one of the things that I will say is that when I listen to kids, and I talk to a lot of kids now, I'm always amazed that the challenges I faced 40 years ago, 50 years ago, it's exactly the same, that we talk a lot, but we haven't shifted, we haven't progressed, and I don't know if that's because the fear is so intense, But I don't think your guys' experience is very different from what mine was many years ago, which is, you know, it's interesting, it's surprising.
No, and again, I will say to parents, you have to recognize that your children are in a very tough spot. Mainly because, if you're in a situation where everybody is having the same experience, even if it is miserable, it is shared misery. But for them, there is this having to maneuver two cultures. There is one at home. I was talking to, I don't know if he will like me bringing up his name here or not, but Subha Acharya, he's at UF, I believe, and last year we were doing a little podcast. And he was telling me sort of his evolution of acculturation. So when he was in elementary school, he was losing weight, and mom will take him to pediatricians and things like that. Well, he was so ashamed of the food that mom was giving him that he was dumping it. He was not eating lunch, and that's why he was losing weight. And then sort of in middle school, he saw some other, so he in elementary school, he was in a school where he was like one of the 2 South Asian kids. In middle school, he started to see all these other kids who will also bring their sort of Indian food that their moms and dads will give them. And so he was like, oh, actually, it's not that bad because other kids are curious. And some kids had figured out how to name it, that curry is named something different that will make sense to the audience that are curious about it. And then in high school, he actually felt a sense of pride about his roots, right? About his South Asian roots, about the fact that he could speak Kannada along with English, and he will actually introduce people to the food that he will bring to school and such. That's the process of evolution of acculturation, right? So it's a process, and sometimes we feel ashamed of how we are, what is our style to wear clothes, as my kids accuse me of having these dad shoes, is what they're called as a negative. So, but be aware that sometimes we have our own fears about things which are not necessarily true. Other people are not thinking us the way we are thinking of ourselves. And being open to that idea and being confident in who you are, which you are doing a difficult thing of trying to live 2 lives at one time.
It is hard, and finding that not living 2 lives, but how to integrate that.
Yes.
Is so important for your own development and being confident. But definitely, I don't know if parents understand the challenges. I think it's tough to be a kid these days anyway. There's so many different pressures and so many different things that I didn't have to deal with. But especially for South Asian kids, with all of the expectations and the huge difference in the culture.
Not to disturb you, but my take of this is it's easier for me to say to my kids, do this, do that, this is how you approach it, this is how you solve this problem if you're based in school, but I'm not the one going to school. They are the ones going there facing every day whatever challenges they face.
Coming from, really appreciate all your inputs. When you said evolving, as a parent and as a kid, we are all in this journey, understanding and trying to support each other. And as kids, they are facing, like she said, their own challenges. They have their own world, trying to be a young adult, making their decisions, and again, listening at home. But as a professional, are there any landmines that parents are overstepping again and again? And are there any red flags that we should be considering? That's where we should step in, without knowing that if they're going down, or we should be supportive. As a professional, what are the pointers we would give?
I mean, I think that the landmines as South Asian families that we look at is the pressure, the worry about what other people are going to think, what other people are doing, the comparisons. Those are the very, very big landmines that I think we are continuously living in, frankly, not even stepping in. And I don't know if this is unique to South Asian parents or not, or all parents, but I think as a culture we're very reactive because we become because we're kind of scared, right? All of us who are here are in a boat that we're never quite sure, right? No matter how long we've been here or what. Just within our, how do I balance this in my culture? I want my kids to do this, and so I think that there's so much fear within us that we become very reactive very quickly, and it really shuts our kids down. right? My middle son, I would say, hey, you know, because I was such a cool mom in my mind, you know, if you end up going to a party and you're not supposed to drink, but if you do, please don't drive. You can call me. I will come get you. And he laughed at me. He's like, I will never call you. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you know, and he's like, oh, that won't be worth that lecture on the way home, right? I won't do it. I'll figure it out. But and it was very eye-opening to me because I had maybe once or twice reacted like, what do you mean, you know? And it really shuts our kids down, I think, when we do that. And again, as a parent, how do you just breathe through it? And I keep coming back to the same thing, is when I'm nervous about something, I pursue them. I ask them 50 questions, and that really shuts our kids down. And at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. And we're learning too, like you said. I think that's an amazing point, because I feel like I have to be a little different every time parenting adult children versus small children, and really kind of keeping sight of, the end of the day, what is the goal? The goal is my relationship with my kid. Because as long as that's healthy and they can come to me, then all of the fears and everything in between, I'll be aware and I can manage maybe, or we can figure it out together. And I think that's something that we get so invested in, the grades and the hack and the checking it every day, that we lose sight of that piece. And it's a little bit of zooming out instead of zooming in. But I think that keeping that in our minds is going to be helpful for our children, for you guys too, to keep that in mind. You know, how do you foster this relationship with your parents? How do we encourage our parents to feel safe with us also, and not doubt us or worry about us as well?
One more question.
Yes.
So the last question from us is, a lot of teens who are not citizens are prone to the movement to India and back and forth for a longer duration due to their parents' visa and work requirements. If you can offer some guidance to them as to how to combat the uncertainties that their generation is prone to, and also how can they handle situations at a personal level by not getting discouraged and disheartened, whether it is regarding their academic plans, goals, the possibilities that they have set forth for themselves.
That's a tough one, right? Because it's a unique challenge. I don't think that there is anyone who has looked into that or studied that in anywhere, or it's even possible to study it. But you know, yes, especially the times that we are living in, I think that's a reality. That anxiety is a reality. My children have shared that some of their classmates are at the risk of having to leave, and that causes tremendous amount of distress for these children, because imagine that we are trying to think about what next couple of years, 3 years look like in terms of grades and SATs, and now suddenly there's this question of whether you can even live here, right? That's a tremendous challenge, and I don't know I have any intelligent answers to that question. I'll tell you how I would explore, how I would manage the situation if I was in those circumstances, is I'll turn it into, instead of one of my usual saying is, life is a collection of experiences. You have good, bad, ugly, good again, and that's all you are left with at the end of it, is a collection of experiences. So think of it as an adventure, right? And say, all right, this is another experience that we are going to have, and we are going to learn from it, right? We are going to grow from it. This will become a unique part of our life story. Is perhaps the only cognitive framework that you can create to deal with it. That would be my answer. That will be my personal answer. People probably will have to come up with their own, but that is how, when facing adversity, my take with my children, my family, is that that ultimately we can talk about all the A's and all the universities and what we are going to become and all of those things. But ultimately, all of it is a set of experiences.
I think that's a great way to look at things too, because what you've basically done is taken out the catastrophic fear out of the situation and made it part of your journey, versus if this happens, oh my God, what about this, what about this, what about this? And that's where, because we can't control we control very little actually at the end of the day. And so I think that's a really good framework.
Yeah, I can take this question as a parent, not, I haven't gone through this stuff, but I have a friend whose children have exactly gone through these circumstances. So the way they were able to manage the kids, they had to go back to India because there was, the visa or whatever, or they chose to go back. Right?
Sure.
I mean, it's not. I think some of them, it's not only the visa requirement. Some of them, actually, we didn't address that point. Some of us, at least I have friends. In our generation, we're settled. They have green card or U.S. citizenship, whatever. But they felt that they were not doing enough for their parents, so they had to go back. They wanted to stay with their parents in India, so that could be a reason, but whatever it is. So there is reasons that people go back and forth. So my friends' children have gone to India, they studied for a few years and then come back to the US. I think it's about the time that they do. Some certain times are challenging versus other times. But one thing that I've seen them do is when they go to India, the children actually learn, for lack of better word, how to hustle better in India. Yeah, so the kids actually learn, become more street smart, how to engage people with different cultures, and they come back strong. So there is, because now they've learned a little bit of both the cultures, the education system as well as the culture from both sides. So I think it is overall, it could be a positive experience.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, there are so many permutation combinations with that because we have a friend whose, again, parents had to leave. The child was in high school, 11th grade. You can't really take them out and then bring them back. So then this child was left with a close family friend, finished her high school, brilliant child, went to university and all of that. But we often talk, and she always says that there's always this sense of resentment that somehow I was abandoned at a very crucial time in my life, right? So while she intellectually understands that it was the circumstances where the parents had to leave, but she feels that, well, maybe she could have just gone with them. And their take was, well, it is better for you to be, again, who knows? This is true for parenting also. You do what you do. If it turns out fine, we're like, we were awesome. Everything we did was great. And you could be doing the exactly same thing and it will not turn out well. You're like, this was all horrible. Right? So it's all based on outcome. It's all in hindsight. People have written a bunch of parenting books. There have been different fads in different times of parenting. And ultimately, I don't know. There's no magic formula that anyone has been able to figure out.
But again, to your point, to what we're talking about, they prioritize the academics, right? And her thing versus relationship.
Yeah.
And so, what is it? What's the right thing? Again, yes, you're right. It depends on outcome. But those are tough things to maneuver.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, don't take yourselves and others too seriously. That's the
Exactly.
Enjoy your life. Enjoy the learning process also. If everything is a test, everything is performance, you're going to be miserable for all of your life because you will carry this everywhere. Yeah. So let's imagine two surgeons, right? They're both equally good. They're both equally, skilled. And one has been told as a child, you're not good enough, you need to work harder. And the other has been told, well, you're amazing, you're great, you're doing good, keep doing this. So one surgeon comes every day, he has to prove each day that he is good enough. Works really hard, is miserable, right? And the other one comes, has the same skill set and enjoys his life, right? So what happened there? It's not the matter of skills, it's not the matter of work that they did, it's a matter of how we defined it, right? So don't take yourselves and others too seriously. Enjoy your life, that's the bottom line. In whatever you are doing, trying to find sense of pleasure. If you're learning, if you can't figure out kinetic and static friction, it's a challenge, it can be fun. Or it can be, oh my God, I'm not getting it, I'm gonna get a B, and then it will be a disaster. So that's the bottom line, ultimately. Yes?
I have a question. A common comment what I see is due to the parents, you don't understand us, you don't know what's going on like that. So how can a parent reduce that generation gap? Or
One is acknowledge
whether-
that that's true.
Yeah.
You are not, you have no idea what is going on, right?
Yeah.
And so what should we do? If I tell you, if you tell me you're not understanding anything that I'm saying, what should we do next? Let's do this exercise together. So I am telling you, I'm not sure what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying. You don't understand what I'm telling you. So what now? What do you do now?
Have conversation.
Be specific. Have a conversation with
Yeah.
me. So what would you say?
Try different way.
Yeah.
You first acknowledge, okay, sure, I hear you, that I'm not understanding clearly.
And I
Second
think that's
part is-
where we get stuck though, as parents, right? Saying, no, we do get it.
You do
Kids
get
going,
it.
no, you don't get it. And sometimes that becomes the stopping point. And again, it is about asking questions, like Dr. Chan is saying, so what is the next piece? Because we do lock into there. Yes, I know exactly what you're going through. Of course I know. I went to school too.
Yeah.
And no one's experience is the same anyway. You can have two people in exactly the same situation, just like the surgeons, but their experience of it is going to be different based on their wiring, based on their life experience, based on their understanding. So in the first place, just saying, tell me what's different. Tell me what am I not understanding. Tell me what is your challenge. But I do think we get stuck with, yes, I know. I don't know if that's your experience exactly. And again, it comes down to asking questions. And I think when we ask questions to our kids, maybe not bombard them though with those kind of questions, but explain to me what you mean is a different question, I think, right? Okay. And trying to understand them, because it is true, we don't.
Yeah. We don't, and most of the time you will find that it is again about academics, and the truth is that we truly do not understand how the grading works and how the quiz works versus a formative works versus a summative works. I'm still confused about all of that.
I still don't understand that either.
Right? So it might look like everything is horrible, but they are not concerned. So you are anxious, and they're like, well, you don't understand. Well, true, I don't. Can you please explain? So,
Right, and then I think we get into a place of checking the hack every day or whatever system it is now, every day, and then there's so much conflict gets created in that too, right? So, what are the rules for our family? We'll check it once a week. Or, you come to me every Sunday and show me what you've been doing and what are your grades, and we can talk about it versus us pursuing our kids constantly.
yeah, so three main areas of conflict, right? Academic performance, how much time you're spending with friends, and how much time you're spending on phone, right? Basically, those three are the big areas of conflict. And if you sit down, form some rules, once in a while, let them break those rules, because they will. That's why the rules are made, so that they can be broken. And yet keep an eye on things, I think the conflict will come down.
Such a chill dad, I bet.
I'm just about trying to kill my daughter's only twice this past week, but yes.
I have a counter question also.
Yes.
It's about the role models and the ideals for the current generation is following. Like we South Asians, we are born and brought up with our ideals for like Swami Vivekananda, Subhash Chandra Bose, Jagdish Chandra Bose, and so on. You see this current generation, their role models are altogether different.
Right.
So, I'm not
No,
saying that it's
I'll
wrong
tell
or
you,
right, but
I
definitely
think
it's different.
you're coming back to the same point, right? That our kids are being parented by the whole world. They have the option of choose. Those were our ideals because that's all we had, right? So either your family, your parents, or bigger ideals were these spiritual leaders or political leaders.
Not influencers, right?
Yes, not influencers. Now there are all these influencers, all this bombardment of ideas, right? Which we don't even realize that it is in a sense parenting influence. So I don't think you can force who a kid chooses, but I think if you feel like it is a dangerous thing, then you can challenge it. Then you can present contrarian opinions and views. I think that's important.
Yeah, why is this person your role model? What is it that you see in them? What are you getting out of that? And it gives you some insight into what your child is thinking and looking for also too. And then, perhaps also introducing them to these other things, but again, understanding, like you said, that they have so much access to so much. How can we teach them to manage that in the healthiest way?
I have a question, and this is for the teens. Is there or are there any solutions for them to reduce their children anxieties, what they face, whether it's regarding the grades or anything, the passion projects per se? So from a medical perspective, are there any solutions, what they can follow at a personal level?
Sure. So I will let Dr. Goyal answer the question from a, so if you think about it, there is an optimal sort of normal level, then there's a distress level, and there's a disease level, right? So I'll let her tell you about the optimal and the distress level.
Why don't you keep going?
And then we can do the disease part. Why don't we start with the disease part, right? So unfortunately, what has happened is that we have started using terminology that is actually a diagnosis as a descriptor for emotions. So I am anxious, I'm worried, I'm nervous. Anxious is a disease, right? Anxiety disorders are diseases. Similarly, I'm depressed, I'm sad. Not every sadness is depression. Depression is a disease that requires treatment, right? Maybe that also comes to your red flag question. Perhaps that's a little subtle difference between there. So what is your red flag for a disease? One, if the emotional distress, whether it is sadness, whether it is anger, whether it is fears, are to a level where they are impacting performance. So now I am not eating, not drinking, I'm not able to focus on my studying because I'm so fearful, so nervous, or so sad all the time. That's a red flag, right? And not just a day or two. It's going on for 2 weeks or more persistently, impacting not just the academics, but now I'm not hanging out with my friends either. I don't feel like eating. I'm not able to sleep. It's time to go see someone, right? That's a red flag. So if there's a change where it is not just usual bickering, but it is constantly not being able to perform, maybe the child starts to express a sense of hopelessness, especially if they ever say something about, suicidal ideations and such, please get them help. Please have them see a psychologist or a psychiatrist or both, right? That's a red flag. The high school years, and not to scare all of you, but high school years and early college years are also times where certain serious mental illnesses emerge, like schizophrenia. So people can have, those are thought illnesses. We were talking about emotions. These are thought illnesses. People can start to have experiences of hearing voices and seeing things where there's nothing. They can develop delusional beliefs that people are trying to harm them or their family, things of that nature. If that's a huge red flag. If kids start to talk about that, you can't correct them by scolding them or talking to them. It's time to seek professional help. So that's a disease part. I will now pass it on.
Well, I think from what I've observed just in Jacksonville over the past several years is that I do feel the South Asian community is improving in seeking out help and talking. So that's always very encouraging to see that. I see more South Asian people coming forward with mental health issues. I think, how do you help your children learn to cope with these things, right? And you made a point about emotions, right? That you're not encouraged, and it's also a generational thing, not just a cultural thing, I think, too, is our children are much more aware of their emotions and encouraged to express their emotions, but I'm not sure that we're teaching them how to cope with them or deal with them. Like there's a lot of, like you said, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I'm bipolar, that, all these words are thrown out that even I think for kids to understand what's a normal stressor or a normal bump in the road versus a catastrophic depression or something, kind of helping them to see what's normal in life. That you will feel a certain way, and it's okay. How do you manage that? Kind of teaching them those coping skills, whether it is through breathing or exercise or talking, kind of helping them understand what makes them feel good, and encouraging them to do that. If when they were little they used to like to play with Play-Doh, maybe when you're stressed you get some, you do some clay or you do something. We lose sight of these things. All of the activities we put our kids in. Why do we do that? Oh, so it'll look good on their college application, pastime. But actually, we're teaching them coping mechanisms too. We just never tie it together for them. So, if you enjoyed soccer as a kid, go and kick the ball. I'll ask my adult patients sometimes, what did you want to be when you grew up? When you were little and you could do anything? Or what did you like to do? likes to color. Well, so color. Like, we don't give ourselves permission, and I don't think we give our children permission, thus, to just figure out what are the things that make us feel good. Because we can keep managing things all the time, but if we don't add to what we're doing that's pleasure every single day, then it's very difficult to manage the bumps in life. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
I think there's a question right at the very back. Sorry, do you have a follow-up? Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I think what she said, I thought on sports of what they really love, wherein they really experience that flow kind of thing.
Exactly.
So will that work on a daily basis?
Absolutely, because if you think about it, if we're not doing something every day to make ourselves feel good, then we can't expect to feel good, right? And it really is about not the vacations, it's about the everyday things that you're adding to your day, and that's for all of us to be really consciously aware of that. We get so caught up in I have to do this and then this and then this, that we lose sight of that. So it's important, even if for 5 or 10 minutes, you have to add that. I think it's part of time management. Even if it's 5 minutes when you're busy, or a half an hour when you have more time, doing something that genuinely makes you feel good and happy, and more importantly, good about yourself. Because everything we're talking about, these stressors take such a toll on everyone's sense of self, their confidence, and that's a whole other topic, of course. But these are things to be really aware of, because this is what impacts your mental health.
Yeah, talking about time, we have 5 more minutes.
Yeah, so there's a question at the very back.
I just wanted to help them with my situation that I had. So my daughter, she said, I'm going through a lot, I have lots to manage, and she's moved out of Jacksonville. So she said, there's lots to manage with work and, like every other aspect. So then she was like, I'm having anxiety, I don't know what to do. So she was like, and me being a typical Indian mom, I said, we've all been through that, just hush and keep going, don't bother me, and then things will settle down and things like that. She said, and she's going to be, hopefully, a child and adolescent psychologist in probably another 3-4 years. And so she said, Mama, that's not how you say, I'm going to teach you how you talk to me. You have to say, so what can I do that will make you feel comfortable? What can I do that will help you cope this? So I can probably tell you what I'm expecting when I talk to you. I want you to give me a patient hearing, first thing. Secondly, if I have something that will help me, like researching on something and I need help and I'm not able to do, then maybe you can help me, guide me, not do my work for me, but then help me, guide me through it. So that's the second thing I felt, and that has helped. And then we have come for an agreement that we will talk once a day. Earlier she used to call me way too often. Now, in the night, before we go to bed, we talk. And like very seriously about the day, how it went. And the way she expects me to give a patient hearing, I want her to talk and give a patient hearing even about my cooking or my classes that I have to deal with children or whatever. And that has helped both of us. And so we don't bother Shankar.
That is awesome.
So that helps you.
Yeah, the parents are the best teachers. One of my daughters was in middle school or even elementary school, I remember. But if I will get upset with her, she will punish me, and the punishment was, for the rest of the day, you're going allowed to say good things about me. So I was like, okay. I had to come up with all the good things that I could say. So ask yourself when you go home, how many times do you say good things to your children?
To yourself also.
Or to yourself also. So it's funny, when I started my residency here in this country, people will say positive things. And my first response was, these people are being sarcastic. Because until I came to this country, not a single person had said a single positive thing to me about me. My parents will say positive things to others about me, but never said to me ever, because that would spoil me, right? So, right? No teachers, no parents. No. Remember, I said shared misery. So it didn't seem like misery there. Right? It actually created strong bonds. Every person that I've been beaten with is my best friend. Right? So
don't want to steal your thunder, but when people ask me what's the first thing I noticed, I came here as a student. What's the first thing I noticed when I came to US? I said, people are nice to me. That's the first thing I noticed about US. People said nice things to nobody else.
Right. So, absolutely. All right, so say good things about your children, right? Till then.
Yeah.
You got it?
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Hope you all enjoyed the program today. Yeah.
I know the kids here are under duress.
Yes.
Sticking.
Thank you everyone for coming and joining the session. The strong point that I heard from what both Dr. Goel and Dr. Kaman have said is it's the culture that we grew up is different from the culture that our kids are growing up. It's just a world apart. And the main thing is that we need to keep gates open so they can communicate with us and trust us enough that they can talk to us with their concerns. And we should be the one of the first people that they come to when they have concerns.